You ready? You got me running, got me running. Shake it, shake it, shake it, baby. Raise your hands up. Raise them up.
Good evening, and welcome to another edition of the After Dark Show. This is your girl, Yvonne Michelle.
Can I hear you, Yvonne? Can't hear you. Are you on mute? It's completely gone. Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. This is the After Dark Show with me, Theo, and Miss Yvonne Michelle. Going to sort out technical issues. We're going to have an interesting discussion today. Very interesting. Let me get the actual heading. It's sexual health clinic. Let's put it that way. How many of you have been to the sexual health clinic? How many of you know about a sexual health clinic? The gum clinic, as they call it. Have you been to a gum clinic? It's not discussion that we have as over 40s. So today we're going to discuss it. It's Red Letter Tuesday. So we've got a letter from over 40 young ladies who's about to take onto the dating world. She's jumping into the dating world. And it's about the questions that you ask, the new age questions, something that I'm not too sure. I'm looking forward to today's show. Good evening, Tony. Good evening, Faye.
Good evening, Theo.
How you doing, sir? Good evening, good evening. How are you guys doing?
Fine, thank you.
Well.
That's good. You had a good day?
Yeah.
Is it cold enough for you?
Not too bad.
Really lovely and warm today in Surrey.
Yeah, outside was warm.
It was lovely. Really,
okay.
Did a nice bike ride today with my son.
I do that in the morning, so it's cold when I go out. So maybe I should go out during the day. It's a bit warm.
No, it's best that cold. Best cold. Get the best air. Get the best air first thing in the morning.
It's true. Not too sure if there's anybody else coming in. Is anybody else joining us? No. So we're talking about sexual health. I know we got a specialist today as well. I think her name is Zora. I'm trying to find all the details now. Zora Johnson, is that her name?
I don't know. Like yourself, I'm also finding.
Yeah, Zora Johnson. She's a sexual health consultant. She's a clinical nurse management consultant. So that's going to be very interesting. So it's Red Letter Tuesday. Everyone has the letter, so I'm not going to be able to go into that.
Okay, hi guys. Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you now.
Can.
Yes.
Okay. All right, guys. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened, but we started the show, and it seems like you couldn't hear me, but you can hear me now, right? So is everybody able to hear me? Wonderful. Right. So good evening, guys. Sorry about that technical hitch. This is Red Letter Tuesday, and it is all about sexual health. We have had a letter from a member of the public, which I am going to read out shortly, but we also have a very special guest. We have Zora Johnson, who is a sexual health practitioner, and Zora is here to talk to us and to take us through some things that we need to be aware of. Now, I know that this is not the normal kind of show that we do. However, this show is an informative show. We come here every week to inform, to help, to nurture, and we have a bit of a laugh at the same time. But today, this letter came in a couple of weeks ago, actually, and I thought that it would be really good for us to explore this. So before I go any further, I just want to thank Theo for stepping in. Thank you, darling. Thank you for
You're
stepping in
welcome. No problem.
and running the show. Thank you. Right. So welcome to the panel. We have, yes, so we have Theo and Tony, we have Faye, and we have Zora as well. And we have Kim. You're
Oh,
here.
Kim. Hey, Kim.
Wonderful. Yes.
Sorry.
Hey,
Kim.
Kim. How are you?
Yes. So these are our 4 panel members today. Kim is in the States and comes in every now and again, but she is you're one of our founder members. You've been here for a long time, Kim, haven't you?
Pushing along, just like that little train. Chug,
Yeah.
chug, baby.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. So, and like I said, we do have an expert on the show today. We have a very dear friend of mine. Actually, I've known Zora for quite some time. Zora Johnson is a sexual health practitioner as well as other things, and she's going to come in and she is going to just introduce herself, what she does, who she is, and where we can find her. So if we can bring in Zora into the mix. Hello, Zora.
Hi, good evening. Lovely to see you, and thank you so much for the invite. Lovely to be here. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. I'm so
Needed to.
excited about you being here. So excited. So excited. So it's all good. So as you know, it's Red Letter Tuesday. And what Red Letter Tuesday means is that we've had a letter from a member of public. If you guys can turn yourselves on mute just for a short moment, then we don't get any feedback. Lovely, lovely. Thank you very much. So yes, so we've had a letter from a member of the public, which I am going to read out shortly. And she's asking for advice and asking from myself and from the panel. Now, what I found really nice about this letter is that part of the letter, which I won't read out because it doesn't need to be read, but I do want to say this, is that part of the letter, she does express that it's so lovely to have a forum that is English, that is British based, that she can ask these questions to. Now, she said there's loads of places in America that you can, loads of shows and stuff like that, lots of places where you can go. But in the UK, she says it's limited, especially from the viewpoint of being that we are all from the African Caribbean diaspora. So I just want to salute and thank the person for writing in and saying that. And we really, really, really do appreciate that you have seen this as a place where you can come and listen and come and learn. So, right. So, guys, are we ready? Without further ado, here's the letter. Dear Yvonne, Michelle and panel, I am a 57-year-old widow. Unfortunately, my husband died very suddenly a few years ago. We had been married for 27 years and planning our 30th wedding anniversary. They had been looking forward to it. We met when we were quite young, and I hadn't had much experience with men until I met my husband. We fell in love, got married, and we had 4 lovely children. I'm expecting my first grandchild shortly. It has taken me time to get to this point where I'm comfortable to date, but I'm here. And she said, this is what scares me. I've met a lovely man who is helpful, kind, considerate, and gets on with my children, bar my eldest daughter. We have spoken about intimacy, and kissing and cuddling is fine, but I don't know how to... Oh, sorry. I have heard young people who I've worked with talk about testing for sexually transmitted diseases, but I have no experience of this, and I have done some research online, but honestly, I don't know where to start. And frankly, I'm too embarrassed to discuss this with my friends, as none of them are in my position. They are all married. Please, can you help me? 1, she's saying, 2, how do I discuss this with this new man? And 2, how do I go about getting us tested before we involve ourselves in an intimate relationship? Yours sincerely, Anonymous. Okay, so here is the letter. Okay, so we know that this lady has very limited experience in this genre, so we need to take time with her. She's been in a long-term relationship. with one partner. That partner is now deceased and she's now ready to move on. So I'm going to ask the panel, and I'm going to ask the panel to take time with this lady tonight. Take time with her, and really, let's really kind of nurture her into how to go about that, but also why. And I think from where we were speaking in the the green room last week after the show, a lot of things came out of the conversation when I said that we were going to be doing this show this week. And one of the things that have come out, especially from the female perspective, is that some men will look at you and say, well, you look clean. And they will be less enticed to go and do a test. Now, we know that younger people are always encouraged to have testings done. They're encouraged to go to the gum clinic and get condoms and all of these things. But it doesn't necessarily fall on us. I think the assumption is that we know already. But do we? This is the question. Do we really know? And if you are starting a new relationship, what are your practices to protect yourself? So we have quite a varied panel today, and we have an expert that's coming. She's going to tell you some things today. Oh, yes. Yeah, she's ready for you today. So this is not just about the person who's written in, but this is for everybody who comes on this show, who listens to this show every week, that's at a certain age, where some of us are single, some of us are in situations, some of us are singlish, some of us are married, some of us have got friends with benefits. I don't know how that's working for you now that we're in lockdown. You know, some of us have got things are gone, right? So today we're going to open up this Pandora's box and we're going to explore. So I am going to bring in, because she's talking about a male perspective, I'm going to go to the men first, and I'm going to ask the men first and foremost, how can she bring this to her new fella without feeling embarrassed? Because she does talk about feeling embarrassed. How can she bring this to her new person? And you know, I'm always tempted to bring in. He's one of my favorites. He is. Yeah, you're looking at me with the side look there. He's one of my favorites because he's a troublemaker, causes trouble every week. So I'm going to bring in Tony because he's Mr. Opinionated, Mr. Golden Mike himself. So Tony, you know, give us a heads up of how should a woman approach this?
Okay, with honesty is the simple answer. At the senior age that she's at, she should be hopefully able to have a reasonable dialogue with her partner about sexual, experiences, both past and future. And during that, you want to establish a number of things. Anyone who's listened to the show long enough will have heard many of us talk about the different aspects of trying to find a partner. Things like identifying what your love languages are, talking about sex, talking about what you like. It's important that you talk about that, because what you don't want to have is, I want to engage in sex, but I don't know what kind of sex my partner wants. So I found it's much easier and makes the whole process a lot simpler if you be honest straight up in front and say, what about sex? Let's talk about it. And let's talk about every single little thing about it. Don't shirk, don't squirm, be open and honest. If you like the toys, what kind of toys, how often the toys, what your expectations are. We've talked about all of these subjects in previous shows. How long is the man going to last? If it's 2 pumps and a squirt, that's going to be a problem for some women.
All right, Tony.
So, look, I don't know how old the partner is. When was the last time he had sex? What issues has he had, if any? At 57, what place is she in her menopausal cycle?
Ooh.
So, you know, look, there's just so many things that you have to talk about, and you have to then, once you broach all these subjects, you can openly talk about when last did you have a sexual health check, and it's as simple as that, a sexual health check. It's not very difficult. You actually don't have to go to have a sexual health check. They can send you the kit.
Okay.
The kit allows you to do all your stuff at home, send it back in the post, very much like a COVID test. You do all your necessaries, you send it back, and they email you, nice confirmation. This is what you've got, this is what you haven't got.
Okay. Thank you, Tony. Thank you for that. We're going to come back to you. Now, we do have Zora here, who is our sexual health practitioner, right? So we do. But we also have Kim here. Now, Kim is a nurse in the States. And Kim said, oh, yes, I'd like to be on this show today. And I was so happy, so happy. So I just want them to talk. And then we've got Faye also. Faye has been very, very open in previous shows about her experiences in going to be tested and things like that. So we've got quite a varied panel today. And then we do have lovely Theo. And Theo is going to tell us all about his exploits of when he was younger to when he got married and settled himself down. Right. So guys, Tony, I heard you mention menopause, and I just want to say this. The menopause section, Zora, I've already invited Zora to come back between 4 and 6 weeks from now to do a special on relationships around menopause, because we need to know about this, how it can affect. So that section of it, we are devoting a complete show to that, because I think it's very, very important for both sides, male and female. So Zora is going to come back, but today we're talking specifically about sexually transmitted diseases and how we can protect ourselves and what types of things that we should be looking out for, the types of things. So conversation. So our writer has said that she's embarrassed, she's not quite sure. And Tony has said honesty is one of the main things, which I really appreciate what Tony has said. So I'm going to bring in, because I do want to bring in our experts. I do want to bring them in. I just want a brief overview of what you guys think before I bring Zora in, because I know, especially with Zora has some information for us that I think will be life-changing. Yes, I do, for some people, because some people don't know this stuff. And I know that because from when people are talking generally and saying they don't want to, that you look clean, there's an issue. Because you see, not all that glitter is gold. And underneath it all, is it gold? Sometimes it's not, and you'll have an itch, but never mind. Right, so I'm going to I'm going to go down in order. I'm going to bring in Faye, then Theo, then Kim, and then we are going to speak to the lovely Zora, and she's going to give us some real good information. So Faye, you know, this letter, you know, bearing in mind that the lady she said she's 57 years old, and she wants, the first question you're asking is, how does she go about bringing the conversation up? If she's embarrassed, how does she do that? So you've spoken in previous weeks that you have done this. So what are the types of things that you have said to men that, you know, that you could offer her as a solution?
I agree with Tony for the most part, actually. It is honest conversation. I don't know how long the lady's been with this gentleman, but I'm hoping that, you know, they've been together long enough that she feels comfortable. Because the whole thing is, you know, when you're embarking on a new sexual relationship, it is very daunting, and you have to feel comfortable with the person in order to do that in the first place. So if you're comfortable enough around him, spending time with him, and you feel that this is something that you would be able to embark with him on, then I think it's really just set a mood for yourself, set a place that's comfortable for you, and him, whether it be, you know, a dinner conversation or, you know, I think actually you just let him know that you want to talk about this and have an open and honest conversation about it and see how he feels about it. Set a mood, set a scene where you're both comfortable and, you know, dive straight in, because, you know, there is no easy way of bringing up this subject, to be honest. It's not an easy thing to bring up. And there are a lot of myths around sexual health. There are a lot of tests that women have that men don't have. There's a vast amount of knowledge out there with regards to this information. This information, so it's never an easy subject to bring up. And the only way to do it is to just dive straight in. You know, I mean, my first question to him would probably be, have you ever had a sexual health screening? Because he may not have had one in his whole entire life either. So it's about really talking about that. And the other things, you know, what you like sexually, you know, positions, toys, all of those type of things, if you're feeling that comfortable. But, you know, it's a gradual conversation. I wouldn't say you have to have all of that conversation in the one night, because it's a lot to talk about. But maybe if you're comfortable to sort of explore, you know, a website or something together, so you can see the different things that you can be tested for. But it's never an easy conversation. But the best way to be is honest about it, and to let him know that you're scared about it, actually, because you've never had to be in that situation. He might surprise you and he might know more about it than you and be able to guide you down that road. But yeah, that's where I would be with that.
Thank you, Faye. Thank you so much for that. And I'm going to go to Theo.
Yeah, it's the same as everybody else is saying. It just have to be direct. There's no way to go around it. You just have to come out with it, you know. Because how else can you do it? You can't kind of drip feed it in. Because for both of it, actually, it's just about health. You know, how do you feel about your health? So it's a discussion about health. So just go straight to the point. Sit down, talk. Men relate better when people talk direct. Instead of women expecting us to second guess, just talk direct. Tell us what you want. Tell us what you are thinking. We can't wait. We don't know. So if she wants to have a discussion about it, and it's something, you just have to just talk to him directly and just sit him down, glass of wine, whatever it may be, and just say, look, just take this relationship to the next level. You know, we should have a check. You know, it's not the experts will come in and explain a bit more in details about the procedures and stuff like that. And the clinics are not that bad. It's not daunting. Mm-hmm. And as Tony said now, which I didn't know, you can get a pack sent to your house if you don't want to go to the clinic. So let's have a discussion direct. Is best. That's the best thing for men. Just talk to us direct. Tell us what you want, and then we can work out from there. Anything else, yeah, it's a minefield. We're gonna try to work out what you're trying to say.
Okay, thanks, Theo. I actually like what you just said about talk generally about health. Approach it like it's a general conversation about health, and then kind of just navigate it that way. I really like that. Thank you for that. Kim, come in, my darling. I must say you're looking very tender and lovely from Jamaica.
I am really comfortable. I think that it is a good place to start when you're honest, but I think it should just be a standard, that it's something that you do. You know, when people say, "Oh, I'm clean," what do you mean by that? Like, how often do you get tested? And women get tested way more than men do. I think, as of counting, University of British Columbia states that there's 20 different sexually transmitted illnesses that they know of. So most of the time you only get tested for 4 or 5. So a conversation that comes up is that, okay, you know, we're in our 50s. So when you're in your 50s, you get your mammogram, you get your colonoscopy. And then if you are about to approach or be involved in a intimate relationship, how comfortable are you? If you're kind of like feeling reticent or reluctant to bring this conversation up, are you actually ready to have an intimate relationship? that's one thing that came up when by the way she wrote the letter. I was a little bit kind of mindful of the fact that she's been with one partner for nearly 3 decades, and that gentleman's deceased, so that may bring up some issues of intimacy for her as well. So it's a big shift to seek a new partner. But the other thing that should be mentioned is that the rise in HIV is in older women, because older partners are like, well, she's not going to get pregnant, she's having a menopause, or the woman may feel that she has the same kind of sexual lubricant or vaginal secretions or that she had when she was younger, and that may not be the case. So the conversation has to be very direct, as Theo has said. It has to be very honest, as Tony has said, and it could be broached from the vantage point of, look, I think this is a pleasure. I want to seek an outlet of pleasure. I want to be intimate with you, but this is what enhances my pleasure. To be well, sexual wellness. It's not just about my health. It's about me feeling well and me feeling pleasure. And nobody feels pleasure when they're worried about whether or not they're going to contract an illness. So I just think that when you are engaging in intimacy, it's something to sit down and say to somebody, look, what kind of positions do you like? What kind of sex do you have? Do you have vaginal, anal, oral? Those kind of things. They're really direct questions. The wrong time to find out about a STI is after you have contracted it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to know more about it, and there is a general consensus that antibiotics can cure all, and they cannot. This kind of false narrative that an antibiotic will get rid of everything, so I'm good. Yeah, those days are pretty much over. You're seeing, and if you relate it to COVID, you're seeing mutant things, mutant variants. That occurs in sexually transmitted illnesses also. So at this age, as hard as it may be, it's like, look, I like to have a conversation, because as Theo said, you want to take the relationship further. And this is really important for us to know. And also to establish whether or not the partner wants a monogamous relationship or wants to have other partners. I think once you have those details and the orientation and what type of sex, I think that that lady could kind of make a determination.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the assumption that, he's bound to just want to have one-on-one. May not be the case.
That's a good point. Thank you, Kim. Thank you for that. So we've heard the panel. The panel have come up with their own views of what our writers should do. But now we're going to bring in our expert for the evening, who is Zora Johnson. And Zora's going to just open up the conversation a little bit more and take us on a journey, so that we can understand the pitfalls if we don't do these things, if we don't do a full STI screening. And we know that therapeutic melanin is saying that a full STI screening does include HIV tests as well. So I'm going to bring in our expert, Zora. Welcome, Zora. Welcome to the After Dark show. And that's it. Lovely. You're on mute. Yes. That's it. Lovely. That's it. You're done. You're good.
Lovely. Thank you. Thanks ever so much. Nice to listen to all your panelists. I definitely say from my experience in the clinics that I've been working in over the years, just a little bit of background. I qualified as a nurse way back in the mid-80s and went on to do my sexual health practitioner training at Manchester University. I worked in quite a number of the clinics around and about Manchester before I went through a divorce and moved back down south. where I continue to work in some of the clinics in and around the Watford and Hertfordshire area. Certainly in terms of the topic that we're talking about, I made some notes from some of the comments that come up. And I think it's really important, as Black people, we have a way of talking from a cultural perspective. And, you know, diseases don't discriminate. You know, it's a little bit like COVID. COVID doesn't say because you're living in a mansion and you are a millionaire that I'm not going to affect you. It has no colour. So when we are talking about sexually transmitted diseases, it is something that it can affect every single one of us. And it really is about how we approach it from a cultural point of view. What I didn't hear, how we approach it from a wellness point of view, because it really, we talk about our general health, but this specifically is around our sexual health. And it's really, really important that we feel bold enough to engage in those sort of conversations when we are of a certain age and we embark on a new relationship. Now, I have to say, I feel it for your lady who wrote in at 57 and probably has only ever had one or two partners in her lifetime. It must be quite daunting for her to be embarking on a new relationship and really not having explored that, apart from feeling probably very comfortable with her partner who's deceased. And, you know, it is a minefield. These days we talk in a very different type of language than we did once upon a time. And probably when she was dating 20 or 30 years ago, it was a conversation that we used to pussyfoot around and no one really got to the point. These days, people are much more bolder. They are very frank. Everybody was talking about the importance of honesty, which I think is really, really important. But, you know, I think when the conversation starts, it really is about exploring what is you are finding out from your partner and exploring and using the information that's being fed back to you as a benchmark. You are then ascertaining, is this the guy that I really want to have an intimate relationship anyway? If he is someone who has had multiple partners over the years, like many people, and it's nothing to be embarrassed or ashamed about. When people come to my clinics, I always say to them, what you have to remember is that when you are sleeping with someone, you will have slept with him and every other person in his lifetime. So if he's coming to you having slept with 50 people, you are the 51st person that he has slept with. Don't think for 1 minute because you are intimate with him and it's you and him in the relationship at that time. From a sexual health point of view, you are sleeping essentially with all his past partners and all the infections that his past partners may have had. So that when the results from any testing is taken place, we often, when there is a result that is potentially harmful to that person, we as consultants have to go through a track and trace. So you think track and trace has just started because of COVID? Let me tell you, track and trace has been around a long time when it comes to sexual health.
Right.
Because what we have to do is determine who is the most recent partner and then contact that person. And for confidentiality reasons, they might not want to disclose. They might be embarrassed. It might have been a fling. And if they have potentially caught something and need treatment, whoever they have also slept with in the recent past will also need to be contacted. So it's like a domino effect. It's not just that one person that you are sleeping with. So if at 57, and if her partner has been sexually active in all of those years, she's got a real challenge on her hands. Because it may well be that he's very well experienced. She might be quite shy in terms of the language that she uses. So yeah, there is lots and lots of issues that are going on in that sort of scenario. But would you like me to take you through the presentation that I've done for you guys?
Yes, I would like you.
All right, okay,
yes,
no worries,
yeah.
lovely.
I think we can just go through that, Zora. If we go through the presentation, and then we can then start to really hone in on this conversation.
Right, perfect, lovely. Okay, I'm going to need your help, Theo. Right, so I've just put together a few slides, really looking at the prevalence of sexually transmitted diseases in the adult community. I try to do this from a perspective of the African Caribbean community, but really in terms of data, I was very much restricted by what I could access. That slide is essentially just a little bit about my experience. I currently work as a clinical nurse educator within the Northeast region. I'm based up in the Midlands, and much of my work is done out in the community at the moment. Lovely, thanks, Theo. Okay, so what I thought it was really important to establish from the outset was, what is a sexually transmitted disease? It's not something, you know, there's lots of myths out there, and you know, some people think they can catch it by shaking someone's hand. I'd like to think these days we are educated enough to know that it really can only be contracted by having an intimate sexual contact with somebody, and that is not just a brief brushing of the vagina or the genitals. It is having a profound deep contact, sexual contact with another individual who's carrying the disease. The causes of, for sure, I'll call it STD. The causes of the backgrounds of where they generate from are that they can be bacterial. They can come in the form of parasites, or they can come in this form of viruses, very much like HIV. And very much like Kim said already before, there are up to 20 different types of STDs in the community. In the main, women, because of our anatomy and the way that we're designed, we tend to suffer with some of the health benefits much worse than what our male counterparts do. Theo, thank you. So some of the common ones that you might have heard of are chlamydia, gonorrhea, trichomoniasis, genital warts, genital herpes, pubic lice. I've got public there, sorry, that's a typo there. That should be pubic, scabies, and syphilis. Now, they've all got very, very similar side effects in terms of the signs and symptoms, which I'll talk about in a moment. Chlamydia, and obviously, sorry, thank you, there's HIV as well. HIV seems to have died down in terms of the public health notices and conversations, but it's still there, and as Kim already said, it is rising. Most of these STDs are definitely significantly rising in the over 40s age group, and that's because people are having more than one relationship. Marriages aren't lasting as much as they used to. People are very free in their sexual habits now. I think social media has opened a Pandora's box of people being drawn to lifestyles and ways of living that once upon a time was considered as something that we just didn't talk about. It, we were embarrassed. It was just a hush hush. But chlamydia is on the rise. It's up by 65% in the over 45 age group, and that is a very silent sexual transmitted disease that causes a lot of pelvic inflammatory diseases. Sorry, could I have the next slide, please? Theo. Sorry, could you just bring it down for me? Theo, are you there? Could you just bring it down? Lovely, thank you. So what are some of the signs and symptoms that you might expect? In the main, and I have only really sort of generalized this, sometimes you might get one, sometimes you might get two of this sort of symptoms that might present, or you might get a combination of all of them. It totally depends which sexually transmitted disease that you've got. Certainly by the time someone gets to the clinic or seeks treatment, they really will be probably well established into their disease. Because of the embarrassment, and because, you know, lots of people don't quite know where to go. They might have known their GP for a long while, and trying to explain to your GP, who's not essentially the best person to see initially, your GP is not going to ask you to pull your pants down and let me have a look. He's not interested. He will just write you something, and he'll send you on your merry way. Whereas really you do need to have swabs taken. You need to get the results from any offensive discharge that might be coming from the vagina, the penis, or the anus, which might be thin, watery, or green, or even yellow in color. Invariably the smell is quite pungent, and it's normally something that you'd be very much aware of. Certainly if you go to the bathroom, it might burn, and that might be because the urethral opening is very close to the vagina in women. In men, again, because the same passage that secretes semen is the same one where you pass urine, so you're likely to get tremendous burning or symptoms of cystitis at the same time. If you're unlucky, you will get lumps and bumps and growths, certainly around some herpes and various other diseases. You might get it all growing around your genitals and anus. And I think probably one of the worst experiences I had at clinic was when a young gentleman arrived and he pulled his pants down and he had such bad warts growing around his penis. It looked as if he had the head of a cauliflower literally hanging off the end of his penis, and that really needed to be cauterized over a period of visits to the clinic with quite a lot of significant treatment. It might be something as simple as a rash. In women, again, you might get vaginal bleeding, but it totally depends on where they are in their cycle and whether or not they're menopausal. If they're menopausal and they get unusual vaginal bleeding, again, that is a red flag. They should get themselves seen. Or you might get itching of the genitals or around the anus. And there's one other, just if you could bring the slide up for me, please, Theo. Theo?
There we
Thank
go.
you. Or thank you very much. Or blisters or sores around your genitals again. So yeah, these are some of the kinds of signs and symptoms. If you're listening in and you've got any of those, do get yourself seen. It's really, really important. As I've already said, chlamydia is the most common STD. Not only does it affect the over 45s, a lot of teenage girls get it and they're not even aware that they're symptomatic. The common symptoms that they get is around pelvic inflammatory disease, and they might get their fallopian tubes or their ovaries might swell, and they'll get deep pelvic pain as a result of that. Again, some of the symptoms are very similar to what I've said before: pain on passing urine, discharge from the vagina, penis, or their back passage, and deep pelvic pain. Invariably, because they might have silent chlamydia, it's normally on deep penetration that the pain is unsustainable in young women. The same is the same for older women who might be menopausal and have very dry vaginal passages. They'll also find that they might get deep pain on penetration. In men, they might get swelling of the testicles. Again, that might look like a herniated testes or around the scrotal area, and again it will feel swollen and painful and will need to be seen. Okay, next slide. So some of the complications, I know that as more mature women we think, well, I'm not having children anymore, but it's not going to affect me. But it does really, and I think it's really important that we look after our sexual health and our general well-being in total. The sort of complications that women might suffer are, I've already mentioned, pelvic inflammatory disease, pain during deep penetrative sex. For some women, it's really important to have that deep sexual experience. And if they don't get it, they don't feel satisfied. And if a man can't give it, again, he also feels frustrated. Telltale signs are bleeding after sex. You shouldn't see any blood at all. And for women, bleeding between periods can be very problematic, especially if you are menopausal and it has stopped for years and suddenly you start getting this horrendous bleeding again. In men, I've already mentioned inflammation of the testes, and there is something called reactive arthritis that they might get, especially if they have had a history of syphilis or gonorrhea. These are some of the side effects that they might get, and it is something that affects all the joints, including their eyes and in particularly their kidney function. So it's something that can affect you systemically, not only just at the point of your genital area. Okay. I should have given you a heads up and a bit of a warning here, but I tried to find some pictures that would show the sort of side effects of what you could sustain. In the top left-hand corner, that's a picture of typical vaginal discharge from someone that is suffering with sexually transmitted disease. Is often purulent, it is excessive and totally uncomfortable, especially for a woman when she's walking around. In the top right hand image, that is an image of someone who's had a history of genital warts, that can spread, that's on the lower part of the abdomen, but when it spreads down the shaft of the penis, it can be incredibly painful, and they can grow in clusters, and they can really sort of form huge sort of blisters on the surface of the skin. In the bottom left hand corner, that is an affected cervix. Now, when a woman goes for a smear, what they should see is a beautiful pink button that's sort of facing you when they're up on the couch. This one is deeply infected, as you can see from the infected cells around the neck of the cervix. And on the bottom right hand picture, this is again a history of someone who's come to the clinic with genital warts that start off in small clusters. If you're dark skinned, they will look dark, and they will grow in such a way that actually makes you look, rather than it being a beautiful part of your body, can look quite monstrous when they really start to flourish. So what can you do to reduce it? Well, you can help yourself, basically. Condoms being the most obvious point in which to start your conversation. Culturally, certainly on my theses when I was looking at men's sexual health several years ago, I don't think a great deal's changed, and certainly not in the partners that I've had either. The use of condoms for some men is absolutely abhorrent. They just won't do it. They say it reduces my experience, the sensitivity. I don't get the same out of it as if I just don't wear it. Now, ladies, we need to be smart. When you are overwhelmed by the desire to have intimacy and your partner's being stubborn, you buy them. There's simply no reason why you have to rely on your mate to do it. Make sure you come armed with different flavors, different sizes, and make sure that you're prepared. Okay, so you do need to have some form of protection between yourself and your partner every time before you choose to go down the route of checking whether or not he's either carrying an STD or if you are. They talk about abstinence, but to be honest, it's not really an option for folks these days. What you shouldn't really have to do without, providing you have that open and honest, frank conversation. There are vaccines out there. Normally that's to combat the early stages of chlamydia in young ladies. I think they've started a program now. I think young girls get it when they're about 13 or 14 at high school. One of the other common sense things to do is to reduce your number of sex partners. Some people these days in the world that we live in couldn't see themselves with having only one partner. And that's fine. No one's going to make a judgment. But if you're going to have more than one, make sure you're not carrying over anything from one partner to another. And mutual monogamy, if that's something that you think suits you, well, all well and good. No one's here to make a judgment. We're adults. We all have different tastes and flavors, as most things that we have in life. And sex for some people is no different. And I think that's about it. I think that's the last slide, isn't it? Oh, yes. Right. Just before we wind up, where can you go for some confidential and impartial advice and treatment? Well, lots of people don't actually realise their family planning clinic. Whilst it says family planning, it's not only there to help you to plan your family when you're going to have them. It is there to offer sexual health advice and to offer you any screening should you need it. If you haven't got one of those on your doorstep, find or Google your nearest genitourinary clinic or a gum clinic. The gum clinic in your area, again, should be offering you confidential advice. I know that some of the screening processes are available where they'll send you kits out. Traditionally, not every health authority will do that. They will expect you to come along, be given advice, and to give you some sexual health advice in the process. It's important that if you do have any warts, if you do have any excessive discharge that is purulent and offensive, that it is seen, that you are swabbed, that you are given the right antibiotics for the bacteria that is growing. If it's a virus, clearly they're not going to treat that, but normally viruses don't have the same presentation as diseases that are bacterial in their makeup. So it's really important that you go along, get yourself screened, get yourself swabbed. It's free. You go along, you literally turn up, they give you a name. They shouldn't be using your Christian name or your first name. They should be giving you a number. That number is your number for every time you go to that particular clinic. The treatment they give you, if you need antibiotics or ointments or lotions or potions or anything like that, it is all free, and it is given to you on the day that you go to the clinic. So if you need it before you are discharged, you're given your treatment and asked to follow up if necessary. There is counselling, especially they offer you pre-counselling, pre-HIV testing, because it's not everyone that is prepared for the likely outcome. I think if you're going to have an HIV test, you need to be prepared for the likelihood that it might not be negative. And it's really, really important that you discuss that with your partner. HIV is on the rise. It hasn't disappeared. It is still out there. Diseases don't discriminate. And it's really important that you take your details of your previous partner more than the name. Quite often people will say at clinic, well, I don't know where they live. I only know his name. And some of them don't even know the name. But it's really important, just in case you do catch something, it's important that your previous partner can be traced and they can be forewarned about the disease that they're carrying in order to then be treated. So it's really important that the whole system is closed. So the final slide should say, have a great time. Go and enjoy your sexual relationships. If you're mature, this is the best time to be having fun. The children are out of the house. You're empty nesters now. You should be able to stroll around in your boxers and your little G-string knickers in the house, and be having orgasms to your heart's content. This is your time now. You've waited a long time for your children to grow and do whatever they need to. So yeah, enjoy it and good luck.
Thank you so much, Zora.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That was very comprehensive, very full on. Yes. Well, people, you have it here first. Boom, in your head, in your face, in the places it's supposed to be. We need to have this conversation, guys. We cannot shy away from it. We cannot run from this, because you know what? We'll run and it will catch us. So therefore, we have to start having an open and honest dialogue about this. So guys, for those of you who are just joining us, we are on the After Dark show and we are talking about sexual health. This evening, we've just heard from our expert, Zora Johnson, who has talked to us and showed us some pretty gruesome slides. I could see Theo just squirming. It's like, lad, I don't want to see that. But, you know, if you're just joining us, this is what we're talking about tonight. So let me ask you, single and over 40, starting a new relationship, what are your considerations for your sexual health? What are your considerations? Guys, I want you to, the keyboard warriors, I want you to get on the keyboard and start tapping away. Let us know. What are your considerations for your sexual health? Do you play Russian roulette? Is that what you're doing? And when I say Russian roulette, you just take a chance. Take a chance. You look clean. All right, I feel clean. You look clean. Let's go for it. Or are you, you know, very astute? Are you one of those people who do go, like Tony, and get your little packet? Tony was showing us before his little package that he would go and do his bits and pieces. Yeah. And it's a free, is that a free postage on that as well? Tony's saying yes. So guys, look at that. Tony is the man in the know. But Tony, you have it there. It no use. No use yet. Oh, all right then. But this is what this is about, guys. So come on, I want you to get on the keyboards and let us know where you are at. And fundamentally, and more importantly, we have some questions to answer for our writer, who has come to us, who was married for 27 years, is now a widow, and is started a new relationship and wanted to know our advice. Now, I know that our writer is listening tonight, and I do hope that what you saw or what Zora brought to the table will help you to navigate yourself in the right way. You said you have little to no experience. You felt quite embarrassed. Now you've had an idea. And those of you who are watching, if this is you, you now have an idea of why it is important to, one, have the conversation, and two, get into action and make sure that you protect your temple, because this is the temple and it's only one that you have. And once you get infected, then you are then putting your own self at risk. Why would you do that when you can, of course, protect yourself? So we've heard many, many things. I wanted to ask Zora a question. And the question that I wanted to ask is, I'm aware that women and men carry or are tested for different types of diseases. They're not all, well, I think that they're not tested for all the same. But are there some things that will only be picked up in the blood? Are there some tests that can only be done by having a blood test? That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, there are a couple. Syphilis and gonorrhea in particular are diseases that are picked up using a blood test, in addition to swabbing any of the sores that tend to come up around the body. They sound old-fashioned, but they are still around. They're still very prevalent. HIV, of course, is one that is picked up in the blood. I think, you know, my experience has been people are not prepared for the likelihood, you know, when you talk about being clean, you only have to sleep with one infected individual who might have the virus, the HIV virus, and you can then become a carrier. And it can be devastating because, you know, a bit like COVID, in the same way that some people get it, like I did, and I survived, and in comparison to people on ventilation machines in ICU, you know, the speed in which something like the HIV virus can develop is very unique. So someone might be living in the community quite well, with being almost asymptomatic, and then when their immune system becomes compromised, they, for whatever reason, then start to show signs and symptoms. So everyone is unique, but once you've got it, treatment these days, there are very good treatment systems out there to minimize and stop the acceleration of its spread. But it is still very prevalent, and people, just because people aren't talking about it, just because it's not the disease of the month, the flavor of the month in terms of public health promotion, we mustn't forget that we are all potentially exposed to whatever that's gone on in our partner's sexual history.
Thank you, Zora. Thank you for that. So, panel members, I want to hear from you guys. So you've heard all of these things, and I think, Kim, you had a question. I think you popped a question up there. But guys, Zora is here to answer your questions. Guys, those of you who are on the keyboard warriors, those of you who are on Facebook, those of you who are on YouTube, please put your questions to our panel of experts. Especially, we have Zora here. Let us make use of the time, make use of the fact that we have an expert here that can answer our questions. If we're feeling embarrassed, there is no longer any need. And if you are part of the group and you don't want anyone to know who you are, then your name will come up as Facebook user. Isn't that great? You can even do it anonymously, or you can be or you can send Tony a message, because Tony has a way of getting the messages over to us as well. And then that way you can keep your anonymity to yourself. I think that's the use of the right word. If not, it's bad luck. I'm moving on. So there's what her views on Viagra
Viagra.
Right, and sexual answers, both topical or oral. What are your views, Zora? I think that's for Zora. If you can let us know who you're directing the question to as well, that would be very, very helpful.
My views are Viagra is an over-the-counter medication. So in the same way you can go back buy paracetamol, you can go and buy Viagra. I mean, I have no real views. If it certainly has enhanced the performance of a lot of men out there who are having problems around premature ejaculation and prostatism issues. So if it means that it gives them more time and they have more pleasure in the bedroom, all well and good. Who am I? I don't have an opinion about it. I do know it works, and it works incredibly well for those men that need it and use it, and for women who are receiving the benefits of their partner having the Viagra. So it works both ways. I've heard of some men passing away and getting heart attacks because they take more than what they should, because they want it to last longer. You know, I would recommend that. I would recommend keeping to the dose that is recommended or prescribed. Don't be taking any double or triple doses because you want it to be longer and harder, and you know, to give you more virility so that you're a beast in the bedroom. But no, I recommend, yes, if it works for you, why not?
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Zora. I'm going to bring in the panel. I think, Kim, you had a question, didn't you?
Yeah, I think when Zora's presentation was excellent. In the United States, we don't use the term STD, diseases. It's kind of sexually transmitted infections. That's the distinct thing that I wanted to mention. But I think the one thing that none of us have mentioned is the cost of an STI, right? So when you think of the cost of a test, and you think of the cost of treatment, and then you think of the cost of coming back for test of cure to make sure that you've actually cleared the illness with the antibiotics, and taking time off work if you're working. In 2016, I think it was mentioned that the sexually transmitted infection or disease industry brings in about $1.1 billion. That's how much money is used. With HIV meds being the most expensive, they retail for you're looking at about 4,000 US a month for HIV medication. And one of the other expensive illnesses would be chlamydia, because it's silent. Most people don't, some people don't get symptoms. It does more damage, long-term damage, such as scarred fallopian tubes that may go on to a person having an ectopic pregnancy. That is a pregnancy inside of their fallopian tube, which can be a medical emergency. I just think that when you're making a determination about your life, it's a subject that you should value just as much as you would like, should I put my money in this bank account? It's really as important as that. And once you can get that and you can talk about it, it's a function. You want something to be that important to you. But the question that I wanted to ask was that I think you mentioned in your presentation that chlamydia there was a vaccine for chlamydia, which I was kind of like, is there? Because I haven't seen it over here. There's a vaccine for HPV, and then the other thing was, which I also found interesting, was that you mentioned that there's a blood test for gonorrhea, which is very unusual because it's urine over here, or a vaginal swab for gonorrhea. So is in the United Kingdom they do a blood test for gonorrhea?
Gonorrhea and syphilis, yeah, they do
For
automatically.
The two or one?
Pardon me?
For the two illnesses, or just one?
When you go to our clinics, you are screened for a number of the STDs.
So is it just not the big five? Gonorrhea, chlamydia. Is it not the big five? Gonorrhea, chlamydia, HIV test pre-counseling, and you have to ask for herpes, for HSV 2.
Indeed.
Yeah.
That's if it's not visual. Usually with herpes, you can see, you can see the symptoms on the individual. But usually, irrespective of whether or not it's a blood test, a swab, or a smear, I think if someone does go to the STD clinic, they have to be prepared to be open to all the investigations that need to be done. I think I showed some of the graphic images because when you have the conversation with some individuals, and some men in particular, they think that you think that they are dirty. That seems to be the impression when women come to the clinic. And it's not a matter of, I'm not making a judgment about you. And this is why I say the conversation is, it's almost as if it can be taken from a humorous point of view. If you can bring humor into it, like anything in life, it will lighten the conversation. Sometimes I think people's terminology in terms of their frankness and openness can almost be derogatory. So being open and honest, but also being sensitive at the same time is really important, as well as using humor if you can.
Yeah, I think I also agree with that, because I feel like when somebody, and I'll give you my background, I am a nurse as yourself, and I'm also studying a master's in human sexuality. So in that particular industry, it is a different kind of terminology, because people aren't just engaging in monogamous relationships. They are sharing, or they're sharing body fluids with, you know, they can be in polyamorous arrangements, and that when they share body fluids, it's known as fluid bonding. So when people want a fluid bond, they have what's known as, and this is, say, somebody who wants to be in a you know, like a triad. They want to have, say, a man with 2 female partners, or a woman with 2 male partners and a female partner. They do something called a testing protocol, right? So if people who are in multiple relationships can do that, it behooves us to say, look, you know, can we just have a testing protocol? It should just be a standard, just like when you find out what this person's favorite color or food is. I don't see. And you did the thing that you mentioned before about the lady writing that, you know, her generation is different. I think she would be considered a boomer, or she might be a Gen X. I'm Gen X. But
what is that?
What's that?
Baby boomer it's a specific generation that we belong to. So you are someone who is under the age of 18 is Gen Z. 18 to 20, I want to say like 25, 26, maybe a little bit older, is a millennial. Now, everybody has different ways of approaching things. Millennials, Gen Z, and the bottom part of Gen X, we are familiar with digital things. We can look up information online. Baby boomers have a deep suspicion of digital stuff, to technology, so they may not be able to find all the information that they need. My parents are in their 80s. They are from the silent generation. You know, they're stoic. They don't talk about stuff. And when you're being taught about your sexual health beliefs, typically, if your parents haven't spoken about it and you've learned about it from your peers or from somebody as competent and as professional and proficient as our beloved Zora, then, you know, you have a different way of looking at things. So the lady that was the writer, she's 57. She's
57.
Sorry?
Yeah, she's 57. Yeah, 57.
Only 57. I'm older than 57.
Only. However, her parents are silent generation. Now, your parents are my age bracket. They don't talk about sex. That's not something that they discuss. So it's something that you would have found out about externally. So, and sex is supposed to be with courting. Now we're in a different age where sex is about dating online and, you know, having sex straight away and talking about what gender you are and talking about your orientation. And those are all new concepts. And people add with that sexually transmitted illnesses. So this lady was with her former husband, now deceased. She's a widower. There's a lot of not issues, but concerns that she should have when she discusses that. So that's all I'm saying. I just, you know.
Yeah, there are a couple of questions that have questions that's come up. It's been around Viagra, that it didn't work for a particular person that bought it and used it. That is incredibly unusual. It's not particularly a sexual health problem that we would deal with. That would be something that someone needs to go to their GP with. I would say there's something much more deeper going on in that individual who's not responding to Viagra. Something deep-seated might be going on that needs further investigation there. So
thank you for that, Zora. There's also another question, Zora. Are hepatitis and herpes STDs? That's from Therapeutic Melanin on YouTube. She's asking.
Hepatitis is to do with your liver, so no. And herpes is definitely an STD.
I'm going to disagree with you on that one, Zora.
What, hepatitis?
Yes, in the United States, we classify hepatitis B as an STD, and
really,
we do because it is spread sexually. And I would also let people know that COVID-19 has been found in semen also. So It's behavior. As you know, I'm gonna just give it to you. You want it, you can have it. That's what it is.
Wow. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, we view the hepatitis B vaccination as a way of protecting. That's one way that they protect you against an STI. Yeah.
Really?
I will get the research to you for that if you need.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah. There's something's just come up about sickle cell. Was that question? No, sickle cell's not. That's a blood disorder.
Yeah,
that's not related to a sexually transmitted disease.
There's a question in here. It hasn't, and it's come up as Yvonne Michelle. So it's obviously one of the administrators of the account because it wasn't me. But it says, hasn't lockdown encouraged more sexual activity? What do you think? We've got that from MediaNet Live as well. Okay. Hasn't lockdown encouraged more sexual activity? What do we think, guys?
I personally think it's probably caused more apathy, to be honest. I think people have become very apathetic about life. You know, I think it's totally dependent, isn't it? It depends how people have used their time whilst they've been at home. If you've got kids and you're doing homeschooling and everything else, a lot of people haven't got the time, desire or energy. And then there are those that have got all the time in the world. They're being furloughed, they're being paid to stay at home, they've got nothing really else to do. They did say that soft porn sites and subscription to soft porn sites have gone through the roof. So, you know, if people are voyeuring on these websites, and I've got a big smile from Leo down there.
I'm pointing at Theo as well. Yeah,
it did say that there's a lot of people who have subscribed to a lot of these soft porn sites, and that's gone through the roof. But in terms of sexual activity, I'm not really sure, to be honest.
Okay, what do you guys think?
I'm laughing because I know a lot of people have been subscribing to it. That's why I've been hearing. That's quite a common discussion about the online porn sites in quite a few of the WhatsApp groups I'm in. So yeah, I'm not too sure what other people are doing, but I know people they've been actually abstaining from sex. But I don't know. Obviously, if you live with somebody, that's a whole different ballgame. But people that are single are not able to like mingle and the bubble business and all that stuff. So I'm not too sure about sexual activities going higher and higher. So I can't answer that one for anybody. So I don't know.
Faye, thank you.
Ask Tony and Faye because Tony should really be answering this question. Really, you're the man. You know what I mean?
Faye, you had something to say, and then we'll bring Tony in. Faye, what's your?
What I would say is that having been on several dating websites and talking to different men, I found that it's very evident that there is a definite sexual frustration out there. Definitely. So whether they are just finding people to just have that sex with, but definitely there is more sexual frustration, and that comes out very, very early in conversation. So it's almost like, you know, the person is not wanting to have a relationship, they're just wanting to have sex. That's been very evident from my experience of being on dating websites.
Thank you, Faye. Thank you so much. Tony, do you want to come in?
Yeah, so a lot of, you know, Zora, the presentation is fantastic.
Thank you.
The thing that I'm just going to say is your health matters. And to that end, I'm a very healthy 52-year-old. And I give blood every 12 weeks. Yeah. That means my blood is tested every 12 weeks because my blood goes to somebody who needs it. Yeah. And if my blood is tainted, clearly they're not going to be accepting my blood. The health check, the sexual health check, it's the one. It's a simple test. It really is. I've been having them since I was in my 20s. I've obviously had 2 very long relationships, 1 really long relationship, but you know, in between there's been women who who I've had to have, or I've had sex with, and I've needed to have myself tested. I mean, in terms of the young lady who's written a letter, a conversation around health should include, you know, what health issues do you have? You know, I have every year I've had diabetes in my family. For that reason, every year I get checked out. Luckily, touch wood, I've never had diabetes, but God knows I don't let that fool me. Yeah. And I go and I get my blood checked and I get my blood pressure checked and I make sure the doctor, actually, I'll be honest with you, this year just gone, I went to the doctor and said, right, I want my yearly checkup. I want to do all the. And they had a new doctor. And it was like, why do you want all this? And I said, well, I want it. I deserve it. I'm 52. Yeah. When I was in my 20s, 30s, 40s, I wasn't really too concerned about my health. Because I was a very healthy person, an athlete anyway. But now I'm 50. I'm like, you know what? My body isn't responding the way it used to do. Little niggles, they last a little bit longer. I pick up an injury here or there. You know, so for that reason, I'm so conscious of my health. I run, I ride, I do everything to ensure that my body is working the way it should do. And my partner should know that. Yeah? So the fact is, when you're talking to a partner, you're not just doing it for the sake of, well, it's just sex. It's a case of, well, you know what? I plan to live to 90 something. When are you planning on living to? Because if your health isn't up to par, then I don't really particularly think I should be with somebody who's not looking after themselves. Yeah? And if they're not, I'm kind of going to be telling them, you know what? Maybe you want to try looking at certain things. The other thing, I turned vegan at 49. And the reason I turned vegan is not because I don't want animals to be killed. It's because vegan lifestyle is going to give me a better chance of extending my life. So all these things just come one after the other for me. It's simple. You know, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to tell you, right, if you look at my profile on any of the dating sites when I used to be on them, because I'm tired of them now, done. Faye, good luck, girl. But me and them thing now work, and I'm finished with that. But yeah, I'm vegan. So you know, don't come here looking for a meat chop. they don't carry them things. Having said that, I do cook meat for my children. No problem with them eating meat. But yeah, you know, just these things are part of conversations that you have with a partner. So, do you do exercise? What do you do? Well, why don't we work out together if you're working out? You know, what supplements do you take? What's your diet like? What, you know, all these things are very important. So when it comes to broaching the subject of sex, it's just part of that sequence of conversation. Yeah, it doesn't need to be at the beginning. Absolutely, you need to learn to know that person, as we've discussed many a time. You know, broaching other subjects, ensuring that, you know, you've got that compatibility. Then when it does eventually drop, you can talk about it because you've developed a way of communicating whereby you can talk openly and candidly. You know, communication is everything. So that's it. I mean, the other thing I want to say is, Black people, we should be giving blood regularly. Yeah, because we are the group of people that don't give blood and have the most need for blood. Yeah, if you don't know about it, check out a charity called the ACLT, African Caribbean Leukemia Trust. Yeah, I'm an organ donor and a blood donor. We as a community are very poor at those things. And I can only say, I wish that everyone who's listening can do what I do and give blood regularly.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for that. I applaud you for that. Thank you. And actually just mentioning about the donor situation as well. So thank you. Delroy Tullock has said, now I'm an elder, I carry I'm sure it says myself, it says himself and the woman to the clinic. And if she doesn't want to go, then she is a no-no. I don't take her word and I don't expect her to take mine. He's very much into that. And he also says, don't leave it to the other to protect you when it comes to your sexual activity. I'm glad to see some men putting in some comments. Dean Bailey saying, love Tony talking, big up Tony. And Therapeutic Melanin said, well done, Tony. I'm also a blood donor. Now, if you are single, Faye, you can come in after. If you are single, I'm just saying, if you are single, we do have some single men on our panel. And as Tony's not on a dating site, so do keep in touch and do contact Tony. Listen, this is how this started. I have to say this. Tony's been with this show from the very beginning, from the first show, from the rant of me going, we're in lockdown and they're saying that we can't meet people, the pum pum police are out. Do you remember that? And we started this thing. And initially it was for us to come together and start doing our own kind of dating and meeting people. So guys, if you are single, and you want to mingle, right? And you do want to protect yourself and have these tests first. I'm just going to put that in there. Don't be shy. Come forward and let us know. Start talking. Introduce yourself. Hi, my name is blah blah. Just put your picture on the. If you're in the group, if you're in the club, put your picture in there and say hi. This is me. I'm X amount of age, and I'm single. Hello. How else are we going to do this thing? We've got to do this for ourselves. We're not happy with dating sites. Even the ones that are designed for Black people are not for Black people, really. So let's do it ourselves, really. Okay, let's do it ourselves. So just saying. And Dean Bailey says he's single as well. So, look, these people are coming up as well. But just remember your sexual health. Hello. Yes, we've got Faye and then Kim, you're going to come in. And then I'm going to come back to Zora. So
I have to say, in our community, it is the hardest thing to get to talk to a Black man about sexual health. It's almost like they feel like they're immune to some of them, should I say? I will say some of them before somebody starts calling my name.
So the coughing going on.
Yeah. But yeah, I find that it can be a difficult conversation. I'm a tester. I've been testing since my marriage broke up 13 years ago. I've been a regular tester and I've tested every 6 months or so, along with every other test that I have, pap smears and all of those type of things. So it just it should come as a norm, really. But to have that conversation, I have found with Black men is a really difficult one. It's almost like they think they're immune, they don't have nothing. As I said, as you said, opening up the show, Yvonne, they look at you and think you're clean. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, the ridiculousnly of the mentality of some of these guys out here is really, really, I struggle with it. And as Delroy said, if you're not prepared to have a sexual screening, I'm not going to be involved. It's just a no for me. So, talking to some Black men out there, it's not about the person that you're sleeping with. It's about you, and you need to protect you, and that's the most important thing. I need to protect me. Pregnancy is the least of my worries these days. Do you know what I mean? There's other things that you can't shrug off, with a pill or an antibiotic or an injection. Do you get what I mean? There's so many things out here that you can have for life. So you should be thinking about the rest of your life and how you want that to look like. But please, Black men out there, just be mindful of this thing, that it is so important to be thinking about your own health.
Thank you, Faye. Thank you so much. Thank you for your honesty as well. Kim, you had a comment as well. Do you want to come in, Kim?
Yeah, there was a question by a Facebook user, and it said Jamaicans use stone. Now, stone is like a aphrodisiac, and also there's another one called Spanish fly. So my understanding that stone is from it's from a toad. So this user said, does it affect the woman's vagina? You know, I know stone is from a toad and Spanish fly is made from some kind of beetle. So the only thing I could think of is if that person is allergic to those particular creatures, then there's a possibility then it could cause irritation or problems or swelling to the woman's vagina. But you know, I don't know what else it's mixed with, and obviously the industry that sells those types of aphrodisiacs is not regulated. So I don't really know what you're rubbing on your penis shaft when you prior to insertion. I mean, I'm just trying to be, you know, just to be honest, if you don't know the ingredients are not written on the back, you don't know, because people can have allergies to things, you know, and there's I know there's been cases of people being allergic to shrimp, and the person has given the other person oral sex and they've had an allergic reaction. So, you know, these things can be transmitted that way as well. So that's one of the questions I wanted to make sure that was answered, or kind of an attempt was.
Thank you for that. Stone, that's an interesting one. I know that when we did the sex toy show, I had, do you remember? I can't remember what it was called now, but I did have do I have it here? No, the bag is not in this room. There was a spray from that they sell online, and on the site they sell it, that you spray on and it enhances the erection as well. So I don't know. I don't know if that works.
I'm going to interject one other thing. I get it. I get that people want a really nice hard erection for a long time, and I think that it's a very powerful, magnificent feeling to be creating this pleasure for your partner. However, here's the disclaimer: once that issue is for more than this amount of hours, and that boner doesn't go down, you should be going to a hospital, right? That's called priapism. Okay, that has a totally different ball game, because now your penis shaft is totally engorged with blood, and there is a risk that you could form a clot, and it could, you know, you may need partial amputation if they can't get that blood to go down, because there's no oxygen going to that area, and it will die off. So you know, have a balance when you're having sex. Hours and hours may not necessarily be what people want, but for yourself personally, more than 4 hours with this, you know, that's why I tell people, don't take 2 and 3 Viagras. What are you trying to do? Are you super dick? What is it? Like, I'm trying to understand, like, is there an S on your dick? What is it? Just, you know, I know it's, and somebody wrote very clearly, it's the ego, you know.
So it's an elbow.
Ego, elbow,
it's the elbow.
Whatever you want to call it. I mean, whatever. It's just like multiple terms. I don't know if you know, but there's so many names for the male anatomy opposed to the female anatomy. Like, you know, what is it? Blue veined yogurt gun, or but whereas they give us something like beef blankets. Great, you know. It's just like
Kim, I don't know if you've seen it. Just going off topic very slightly.
Sorry, I went tangential. I'm sorry. I'm right here now. I'm coming back. I'm here.
There's a viral video of a man reading out the Jamaican name for a vagina.
Yeah.
53 different names.
I want to see it again. I'm sorry.
We need to get that and play that.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But we've had I just want to say, just to interrupt, just slightly off topic, we've got Yaba who says, Tony, have you got an updated CV and 2 references? Zora, the reason why we're talking about references, this came up in a previous show about getting references from people, and I shared a story of somebody approaching me, and I got a reference, and I was told, no, don't go there. So I didn't, yeah. So Yaba's saying, do you have 2 references? We've got Shireen who says, therapeutic melanin. My name is Shireen. I'm 50 and I'm single. Okay, girl. Okay, girl. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking. Listen, guys, we've got to do it for ourselves. We really, really do. We really, really, really do. So Zora, coming back to you.
Excuse me.
In terms of our writer, what would you, as a mature woman now, what would you, how would you advise her to approach this subject? Because I know that you know you are you know, and you're very you're very graceful. And sometimes, because she said she hasn't had this practice. It's not like some of us have been single for a long time and have been out there and we've been meeting people and we kind of get to know how to manage ourselves. But she has been married to one person for all of her life. That person has now passed away, and so now she's, you know, looking to explore into a new relationship. So it must be really daunting, really. And there are some women out there listening tonight who have been single for a very, very long time, you know, and don't really know how to broach the subject or to navigate themselves around. So what would you advise this
You know, a lot
lady?
of women, certainly of her age group, won't necessarily have, you know, it's about self-confidence. So that level of confidence, if she doesn't have it, it's very difficult to know how to give someone confidence if they are naturally a quiet spoken person who would normally hold things back and not deal with various subject areas or skirt around issues. So if that's the way she's been all her life, it's going to be very difficult to carry that into a conversation with someone she hardly knows. And I would say, you know, if she could get to know him and laugh and joke, you know, and have that level of connection with her partner, she can then gauge in terms of her level of confidence how she's going to broach the next part. Because I'm assuming that she's the sort of person who's quite faithful, would be monogamous in her sort of sexual lifestyle, and would probably want to take it, but she needs to be sure. She doesn't sound like the person who's going to hop into bed on the sort of say that on the say so in terms of this chap's saying that he's clean, etc. I think she would want to be confident in how her relationship is going, and then she would then feel confident enough to broach the subject, and she might do it with a bit of humor. At the end of the day, she's got the level of wisdom, and intuitively she will know when the time is right. Your gut tells you. That's why people say, you know, my spirit tell me this and my spirit tell me that. She will know when her spirit tells her. That is why we as wisdom women who are of a certain age, when we get to a menopausal age, instinct, wisdom, and her gut, she's got to listen to those feelings before she then, you know, broaches the subject. And when she does it, she will come from a place of knowing what she wants. She will say it with conviction that she's not messing about. You know, she's not going to take no for an answer if he turns around and says, no, he's not going to go. She will be in a place of confidence where she's going to be very much like, who was it that was saying that their well-being, her sexual health and her well-being, she wants to look towards a life, a future. You know, this is a very fragile time when you are 57. Your hormones are all over the place. You know, you are then thinking about mortality, and your pension and your grandchildren are starting to filter through. These are things that are important. Sex is almost like a bystander. Sex is no longer on the list of priorities. It's important, but it's not everything. So I believe if I was saying to her, I'd say, take your time. There's no rush. Sex will always be there. If he is a man, he will wait. If he's a man who respects you enough, he'll be down in that clinic tomorrow. It's not even anything for you to worry about. Leave your mark, make it clear where you stand. If he wants you, these are the things that he's going to have to do in order to enjoy his special time with you. But that's how I would approach it.
Thank you, Zora. Thank you. You know what you said there? You used a very interesting terminology. You said special time. Now, for those of you who have done parenting, you will know that special time is a thing that you give to your children and they get excited about it. And so if you put that on the other, you kind of flip the script. And just to say to our writer, you know, talk about those special time, the special time that you will spend. I think he would be more than willing to go and explore this route in terms of having these tests done in order to enjoy, as you put it, Zora, the special time that they spend together. I think she sows that seed. Oh yes, then he will.
And you know the thing is, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but he will respect her, because I bet you any money he has gone throughout his whole sexual lifetime never being asked to ever have any form of screening, and he may well take offense, but if he is wise, he will know that really she might be saving his bacon down the line, because he may well be carrying something that could be explosive at some point in his future, that she has helped him out in the here and now.
Okay, thank you so much, Zora. Thank you so much. We've got some dating business going on here. Dean Bailey saying, how can I get to know Faye? Hello. Hello. Hello.
Good evening, Dean.
Oh well, how can I get to know Faye? Dean asks. LOL. I don't know who said that. Oh, I know who said that. That's Kellyanne. Right. So, okay. There was another question that I wanted. Delroy said she must take him to the clinic. By then, she should know that. By then, he will know that she's serious about him. Okay, so that's another thing. They could actually go to the clinic together, but it's a bit difficult in this COVID time. I don't know what the restrictions are. I know that Tony's got his box, so the online thing is that, but maybe they can do it together in the same place if they're in each other's bubbles. I don't know.
You can actually, I think for a while it was just through the testing through the post, but there are some clinics that are allowing people to go personally now. I know definitely in Luton they're allowing personal visits, so you just have to check with the individual local clinic as to what they're doing. But definitely, if you go online, you can order the tests online, and you can get that through the post without having to speak to anybody. But if you do want to speak to somebody, there are some clinics that are allowing personal visits now.
Okay.
So this is the secret I was trying to tell you before the show started. My ex-wife, who I was with for 16 years, was a sexual health nurse and still is now. And I pretty much helped her with her degree in sexual health. So I know a lot about this subject because I pretty much was living that life every day.
Okay, that's good to know, Tony. I didn't know that before. You should have told me that like last week. Last week when we was talking about it but yeah, we was talking about it last week after the show. You never said a word. But you know, Tony, you are like a present here to this show. There's always something when you unwrap Tony. There's always something inside. Yes, there is. And you know what, Tony, like sometimes we can be like we can be like this. Okay. But there are other times when we get on so well. So Tony, if I had known that, but I'm glad you're here today. I'm glad you're here today, and your input has been very, very significant. Dean Bailey says, I love Faye. Nice chocolate. Look, she seems to be a nice, pleasant, but you look like chocolate. Look, it's all going off here. It's all going on here. Right. So, but this is what we're talking about. We're talking about us coming together. We're talking about building relationships, not only in terms of partnerships, but friendships as well. This After Dark crew, we are becoming more and more like a family. And so those of you who are in the club, you know, we want to hear more from you. We want you to add more into the group and keep talking. You know, Zora, you have been here this evening. And as I said before, Zora will be coming back because we will be doing, and I think we might have to do it in two different ways in terms of the menopause show, because I think that there's a show for the women, but there's also a show for the men. I think we need to break it down and not really try and shove it into a 2-hour show. I think we really need to take our time, especially as our demographic for this show is 40 plus. So those ladies who are 40 and not in their menopause, you're heading in that direction, right? I'm just seeing everything. So, fire! Can we get some fire emojis, please? I'm just reading the comments and then I'm saying, names are, you know, connections are happening.
It's about time, isn't it?
Yes,
It's about time. Yes, it's all this time.
I know. I know.
2021 phase, 21 phase, 2021.
I know. Thank you.
It's a new year. It's a new year and new things. New things. Michelle is saying great information. Men have pause. Nevada Cater. Hello, Nevada. How are you doing? Good to have you. I think Nevada is in. Are you in Sweden? Where are you, Nevada? I know you're not UK. You're not in the UK. Men have pause. You have to love Faye. Absolutely, Kellyon is saying you have to love Faye. Yes, you certainly do. So we're coming to the end of the show. We've got less than 15 minutes. So what I want is I'm going to ask the panel to just do a very, very brief summary because I want Zora to come in at the end and give her summary before I give mine. So panel members, you have like a minute each. Yeah, seriously, a minute each. And if you go over a minute, I'm going to cut you. I'm just going to say I'm going to cut you. All right. So you got a minute each. What are your takeaways from tonight? What are your takeaways? What were your biggest moments, your learnings? And that I'm going for the panel first, not Zora. Zora's going to come in last with her comments because she is our expert for tonight. So I'm going to go in line. I'm going to go with Faye first, Theo, Tony, then Kim.
Well, as a regular screener myself, a lot of the information that was read out today, I'm already aware of. But what I would say is to people out there, take this thing seriously. It is a serious issue. There are things that you can have that lay dormant in you, especially if women are trying to have children and things like that. Some of these things can cause infertility. So it's about taking it seriously. And, like we're in COVID times as well now, we have to do our best to keep ourselves as healthy as possible.
Thank you, Faye. Thank you. Theo, to you, my darling.
If you're getting to a certain age, as I said before, it's about your sex, it's about your health. So look after yourself, go to the clinic. Don't be scared to ask and talk about it because you're going to talk about everything else. So how hard is it to talk about your health? And go get yourself checked out and bring the guy with you, man. Don't be scared to take someone with you.
Thank you.
On a special trip.
Yeah, I like that. Special trip.
The reason why, so before you cut me, is because he would then have in his head what's going to happen later on.
Okay.
It's the prize, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Your eyes were sparkling when you said that, Theo. It's like, yeah, I got this. You got this, Theo. You got this. You got this. Thank you for your comment. Tony, come in.
Yeah, so just as I said, really, health is wealth. That's one of my big things, look after your health. That means mind, body, and soul. The whole three are the trident. If you don't have one, the other two are going to be lost in some way. ensure that you deal with all three with the partner that you're working with.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Thank you. That's a miracle. Thank you, darling. Mwah. Right, Kim, come in.
Retirement. We are planning for our retirement. Please do not let STIs cost you part of your retirement. It's money. This is what it is. Ain't nobody got time to be going to a bathroom, smelling on their drawers, wondering if they got something. Have that conversation, okay?
Come on now. To the point. Thank you, Kim. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yep. Actually, look, we have this. I think that comment deserves this. Yes, the golden mic. Right. So, Zora, your last few thoughts.
Well, you know, for me, sex is about pleasure, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It is an act where two or more people come together to experience some level of sexual pleasure. Whether or not we are doing it in our teens, in our 40s, 50s, and for those that are lucky enough to be doing it in their 60s and 70s, you know, if you are sexually healthy and you have a good attitude towards your sexual health, it should carry you over into, you know, throughout your adult lifetime. And yes, it's important to talk about the expense. And yes, it's important to talk about the other elements. But yes, it's really about pleasure. And we have to take ownership. We cannot be pussyfooting around the subject. You know, as adult women, we must take ownership. We must take the stress out of all the issues around STDs. Get prepared, take ownership, get tested. I'll share with you, which I have done, you know, offline, Yvonne, when we've had a conversation. I don't enter into a sexual relationship with anyone until we have both been screened. It's one of the first subjects that I bring up when I meet somebody new. If they're happy to go with me to a gum clinic and be screened, they often say to me, "Oh, I'm all right, I don't need anything." And when we go there and when they're screened, the men go out one entrance, the women go out the other entrance, and they're carrying a carrier bag. And I'm saying to them, "What have you got there?" Oh, he says, "Oh, you know, I've got this and I've got that, and I need to take this cream and I need to take these tablets." And I think, there you go. If I hadn't insisted that we go together and you get screened, I would have been a carrier straight away. And, you know, it's very easy to get all dizzy with the romance and whatever, but you really must be accountable for your own sexual health. Nobody else can do that for you. So make it pleasurable. Take the stress out of the whole experience. We are adults. We are grown. We are able to have, you know, if the man gets vexed and he walks off, let him walk off. He wasn't worth your time. You know, so, you know, hold it together as far as I'm concerned, and take ownership for your own sexual health. Those organs are yours. They carried your kids. You know, you can still have some level of pleasure. It might not be wham bam, you know, like it was in your 30s and 40s, but you can still be intimate. You don't have to completely write it off. You know, you have a different sexual experience when you're older. And so really, that's what I want to share with everyone. You know, be accountable, have those difficult conversations, you know, deal with the outcome as and when it arises. If you feel he's worth it, and if you are the one, he will hold your hand and skip all the way to the clinic and get whatever treatment he needs. That's really what I'd like to say.
Thank you so much, Zora. It has been such a pleasure having you on the show. And like I say, Zora will be back in about 4 weeks' time for the menopause show. She will be back because Zora knows a lot about the menopause in respect for men and women. So I look forward to Zora being here again. Dean Bailey says, "I've learned a lot from this program. This program makes sense and has given lots of knowledge. Michelle say, such a serious subject. However, Theo's facial expressions today have been hilarious. Certainly not a poker player. Yes, you're not a poker player.
I don't know. You know, one thing I had to ask Zora, you see when that guy came and his things was like, you said it was like, I don't know, full of bumps.
Cauliflowers.
Cauliflower, yeah.
What was it? Did he realize it was like that from the first 2 bumps or whatever? I don't understand how you can sit there and watch your thing just go into cauliflower state. Or did it happen suddenly?
No, well, it can grow at various rates. Okay. But, you know, the thing is, people are in denial. You know, the human brain has a way of protecting you by telling you it's not really there. And if it is there, it ain't that serious. And, you know, a lot of people are fearful of a bump that turns into a tiny bump that turns into a bigger bump that turns into something that's literally needing a carrier bag to keep it off, you know, from falling off your body. So it's about fear. It was a middle-aged guy. It's about fear. He was hoping it would go away. You know, lots of people think, oh, you know, in the morning it won't be there. You know, and then one
that's a
day
black man thing as well. Black men don't like going to the doctor.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a man thing, Tony. I think that's a man thing.
Yeah,
I think that's a man across the board. I don't think that's a. That's a.
You know, and the same thing.
I scratch up myself, and I still didn't go to hospital.
Exactly. If they are in denial. When I opened up a lady using a colposcopy, because she was complaining of the same thing, when I used that instrument, you pop it down the vaginal passage, I have never seen such a cavity of just items dangling down from her vaginal wall that was just green. It was absolutely green.
All right.
Okay, look, everybody's like switching. Everybody on the panel switching. Oh, thank you, Zora. But this is
I wasn't the only one now. See, I wasn't the only one gruesome now. Faye was like, Faye was telling me that she's tough now. Look at Faye.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not tough now, Faye, huh?
No. See, these are the conversations that we really need to have. You know, we do have some funny conversations, but these are the conversations that we really, really, really need to have. Michelle says denial is not just a river in Africa. Hello. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, man. I love it. Okay, guys, so we've come to the end of the show. We have, but before we go, I just want to make a few points that we've learned today. One of the points is go and get your sexual health screening. Talk about it for the person who is our writer. Talk about it generally. Just bring up a conversation generally about health, and then from there work your way into the sexual health screening part of the conversation. You can talk about the positions you liked and all of that thing, all of those kinds of things, but the most important part of that conversation is actually having that conversation to say, you know, if we're going to take this next step, we both need to have a sexual health screening. You can explore the websites together. You can let him know how you're feeling. If you are feeling a bit apprehensive, if you are feeling quite shy, if you're unsure, let him know. I think in the letter, when I read, there was a bit. The letter was quite long actually. And so I just took out the main parts. They have been in a friendship for 7 months, and there's been no sexual contact in the 7 months. And so they've got to a point now where she feels that she's ready to do that. So let him know how you're feeling. And, you know, Tony mentioned something really, really key to talk about your love languages as well. What is it? How do you receive love? That's a really good way of opening up a conversation. Take your time. And take your time. He will wait. If he's worth it and he knows that you're worth it, he will wait. Talk about special time. You know, that can be kind of like dangling a little carrot in front of him. You know, we want to have special time together. You know, and the last thing is, you know, it is each and every person here, every listener, every person taking part in this conversation, it is our responsibility to take care of our own sexual health. If you are with a man or a woman, either or, depending on what sex you are, and your preference is, and your partner is saying no, then they are probably not the right person for you. And you have to feel confident enough to cock up your batty and walk off and leave them. Yes,
That would
I
make
said
them
it.
running after if you did
Let
that.
them run. Let them run. But, you know, it's like, ciao, see you later, mate. You know, they're not worth it, you know, and that's what I say. So, you know, we have come to the end of the show. I want to thank our panel members who are always here, who always do a great job. And I also, actually, let me just say, Theo, Tony, Faye, and Kim from America, girl, thank you for being here. And I think, you know, it's good for us to talk. And also, I just want to say a special thank you to Zora Johnson, who has been here. Yes.
Zora, I've got a comment, Zora. Someone sent me a text.
I gotta have Zora's details. She's great.
Someone said Zora was very good and very calming.
Yes,
she is.
And how did you keep a straight face when you're talking about pulling out the stuff out of the woman? How did you keep such a straight face?
Yeah.
All in a day's work. All in a day's work.
Right. Therapeutic Melanin says, thank you, Zora. Very informative, great presentation and great advice. Look forward to seeing and hearing you again soon. Take care and stay safe. Patrick Solomon says, good night, panel members of doctors, and special thanks to Zora. Thank you. God bless you all and stay safe. Zora, you've had a massive impact on our viewers tonight, our panel tonight. I want to thank you again for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. Stay on the line. Stay right here as the credits go at the end of the show. And we'll be back here again next Tuesday. I am planning to do an Instagram live soon. It won't be for now, but it will be coming. I just need my sister to progress and get better. So those of you who've been praying for my sister, I'm asking you to keep praying for her. Keep her in prayer. She's fighting. And the more we pray is the more we're going to push her forward to actually waking up. So those of you who have prayed, I want to thank you for that. And we will be back here between the hours of 10 and midnight next Tuesday for the After Dark show. But for now, guys, tell everybody good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Good night.
Ciao.